the one who was waiting has arrived. Yes, the first season of Castlevania Nocturne is for you. I can't believe how good this first season of Castlevania Nocturne is. It's blown me away completely and it left me on the edge of my seat, gutted that we have to wait for season 2. Anyway, with a story that was focusing on Richter Belmont, a vampire hunter and looking to save France from the grasp of the Devourer of Light, we saw real complex issues tackled in this short 8-episode series. So let's recap, break down and explain all that there was to take away from this first season. Here is the Castlevania Nocturne ending explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Who is Alucard? Wait, at the end of the final episode we saw that an individual called Alucard essentially came in and saved the day, preventing Richter, Maria, Annette and Mizrak from being destroyed. He came in out of nowhere and revealed his identity, which then caused everybody else to back down at the threat of being killed. This left the question of who is he? Well, Alucard is the child of Dracula and a human called Lisa, so he's part human and part vampire. Something which does make him unique in terms of his backstory and how he came to be on the side of the humans. His mother was killed as the people believed that she was a witch, but upon her death, she told Alucard to not take his anger out on the humans, due to the sheer amount of pain and suffering that they'd gone through over the years. However, his father was more than willing to fight against the humans. Alucard was trained by his father and was deemed to be stronger than any human, and it was intended that he'd go on to fight on the side of evil. However, once Alucard was strong enough, he stepped away from his father and his army, and he wanted to fight for the humans and planned on destroying his father's army instead, showing that he was standing by what his mother believed in and wanted him to do, also highlighting that he was different from his father, hence his name Dracula in reverse. So I think it's safe to say that we're going to be seeing Alucard in the next season of the show, especially judging by how strong he was. Terror, sacrifice, place and the Rem reference. In the final episode, we saw that Maria was supposed to be a sacrifice from Emmanuel to Ursabed, so that she could see just how loyal he was and that he wasn't going to stray, even when we thought that Maria was free, with Ursabed entering and seeming pretty indestructible and stating that she wanted Maria to be the sacrifice and have eternal life, becoming a vampire. Terra stepped up and told them that she would be a worthy replacement. Earlier on, when Emmanuel was about to sacrifice Maria, he said to Terra, "Why didn't God send a ram?" Then when Terra spoke up, she said, "I am the ram." This is something which is referencing a story in the Bible in the book of Genesis. God ordered Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac, and then when Isaac was about to do it, a ram appeared along with an angel, and the ram was sacrificed instead, leading Abraham to be praised for his obedience and loyalty. So Abraham's son didn't need to be killed in the end for his loyalty to be questioned. It was more about seeing if he was going to go through with it. So with Terry stepping up and saying that she was the ram, she was essentially calling herself the thing that needed to be taken instead of their daughter, ultimately meaning that she went on to become a vampire. A scene that was definitely haunting, and we saw the true transformation. Why did Richter get his magic back? During the show, we saw that Richter was an individual who wasn't able to use the magic that he once had when he was younger. It's most likely because the last time that he used it was when all the rocks killed his mother, so the ability was associated with the pain that he felt when his mother was killed. However, when he was captured along with his grandfather, he was on the verge of death, and as that happened, we saw the thought of his family being killed at the hands of the Devourer of Light, and it sparked something inside of him, that fear and helplessness that he had when his mother was killed. And in turn, instead of running away, he embraced it. And it led him to be the most powerful that he had ever been. And he channeled that magic that he could never unlock. That was definitely one of my favorite moments in the entirety of the show. The themes of slavery. Within this season of the show, being a slave to something or somebody was something that was prominent for nearly every character. Annette was enslaved and on a plantation. Edward was transformed into a night creature and a slave to the abbot. Richter was a slave to his own mind as he was struggling to overcome the issues that were present which prevented him from using his magic. And the most important one, the French people were soon to be enslaved to the vampire species. Outside of the main plot, which was focused on the city being taken over, we saw each and every one of these characters overcome the issues that they had, and they found their way to freedom. Something which was empowering to watch and went against what the others said earlier on, where he said evil will always win as there will be more and worse. This wasn't the case for this set of characters, and they proved that on a personal level, they could overcome their own demons, and the demons that stood in their way. so it was an interesting way to frame the powerful nature of the message. Why the French Revolution? It seemed as though this is set in a time period where there was uncertainty amongst the population of the city. The church was losing its influence and power, and the people were looking for leadership and direction elsewhere. So the collaboration of the abbot working alongside the Sun Devourer and the Vampire Messiah was so that he could appeal to the non-God worshippers, and find a way to get them back on the side that he was on in terms of the revolution. And then, if they didn't comply, then he'd simply have them eradicated, meaning that the vampires could feast off of them, or they'd simply become night creatures and be a slave to the man that they were not on the side of. So the uncertainty of the time period and the hostility that was present at that time is something that does make a good setting for the theme of the story. Overall review: I thought this first season was simply incredible. I was hooked from the moment that it began right up until the second that it finished. The first 7 minutes that were released was one of the best starts to a show that I've seen in a long while. It captured the mood-pacing excitement that we were to expect. Also showcased the impressive visuals that we were in store for throughout the entire 8-episode run. Plus it also sets the origin in place of why Richter was the way that he was 9 years later in France and is now an adult. The story was something that was really able to shine, and the fact that there isn't really anything like this that's out there at the moment, it stood out in terms of originality. The way that this show looked was something that I thought was extremely impressive. 2 elements looked extremely real, such as the texture of the water, the sky, and certain other landscape features. Having that paired with the traditional anime style was a really nice combination. Even certain transitional shots when characters would be transforming or showcasing their powers. The way that it was designed allowed us to feel the weight of what it wanted us to. One of the best moments was when Richter discovered that he could use magic again. That whole sequence was so enjoyable to watch, and it was also inspiring. Especially when he then proceeded to obliterate everybody that was around him. The transformation of the character All Rocks is one that I was hoping with and this season of the show, as it very much felt like it was leading to that, but seeing as though it looked as though he was on the cusp of turning. I hope that that's something that occurs in season 2 when it finally comes around. All of the voice actors nailed their roles in this show, and there wasn't one weak link. Richter and Maria were definitely my favorites along with All Rocks, and I also thought that Valblanc really embodied a sinister nature on a personal level, something which I thought was impressive to see. The final thing that I'm going to touch on is the sound mixing and sound design. Just wow. All of the fight scenes had epic sound attached to them, and it really made it feel like a Tyson battle when it would be playing out. However, there were small touches that I thought were designed so well, such as when All Rocks walked through the blood of Julia Belmont. The noise it made was haunting. It almost added an extra layer to the brutality that we witnessed. This was a great first season of the show, and I just think it's a shame that there wasn't more. It was left on a cliffhanger, and also with the introduction of Alucard, so I feel there will be a season 2 of the show for sure. At least I hope so. There you have it, Castlevania Nocturne ending explained.